Okay, I'm going to make a video demonstration here of a really important aspect for you if you're hunting and climbing using the DRT method or SRT. One of the most difficult aspects of it is getting your rope, your climbing line, into the tree where you want it to be, and especially in a hunting situation. If you go out and you're just straight up run and gun, you're going into a spot blind, maybe you have a place that you have picked out on a map, you want to go in the first time without going in there and scouting it, and you're going to go in with a throw ball, throw your line up into a tree. That's a little bit challenging sometimes. You know, some trees are easier than others, and if you're good at throwing your throw ball and you've been practicing, it's not that big of a deal. But me personally, wherever I can, I like to pre-scout my locations and set a paracord loop in the tree. This way, if I wanted to go in there in the dark, I can go in and use my DRT climbing method in the dark. And it just makes life a lot easier, because you're going to be moving around. You might be you could potentially make some noise, and whenever it's possible for you to do this beforehand, it's always better. So I just want to show you, I want to give you a demonstration of how we do it, how we leave our paracord loops in the trees, because I had a couple guys ask questions. It's pretty simple, but for some people who are just trying to understand exactly what we're doing, I just want to give you an actual video demonstration of it. And we're going to use this small tree as an example. So what I would typically do is I'll go out into the woods, pick out my tree that I want to hunt from, and scope out what limb I want to tie off to. So let's say for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to utilize this limb. Obviously this is a very small tree, you wouldn't be sitting in anything that small, but just for the purpose of this demonstration, to give you an idea of what we're doing. We have our throw ball and throw line. We use a 14-ounce throw ball, and it's about 3 millimeter throw line. And you can get this stuff from any arborist supply. And what we'll do is we'll take the throw ball, throw it up into the tree, up and over the limb you want. So let's say this is the limb we want to go over. We go up and over the limb, line comes down. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take my throw ball off of the one end. Then I'm going to have some paracord. You could buy paracord at Home Depot or your local hardware store. If you really want to save some money, you can go on Amazon and you can buy spools of like 500 feet. If you like to set out a lot of, if you want to set out a lot of presets, maybe you buy a 500-foot roll and it's like $15-20 bucks. So you can save some money that way, and you'll have enough to cover a lot of different presets. So what we'll do is we'll take our paracord loop, or I should say your roll of paracord, and then you're going to basically just tie the paracord to the loop on your throw line, and you're going to pull that up over your limb. Once you get it up and over your limb, untie it from your throw line. Then you're going to take your knife, cut your paracord, now you basically have both ends of your paracord. You have both ends of your paracord here, and you take one end of it and you're going to tie a loop, a small loop in the one end. Just like that. Tie a loop in one end, and then the other end of your paracord, you're going to tie that to the loop. So you have a loop here, and you're just going to tie the other end of the paracord right to it. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, but it just has to be a strong enough knot where it doesn't come out on you. And that's it. So now I basically have a loop in this tree, right? If I pull it, it just basically goes all the way up and over. It's a paracord loop up over a limb. Then what we do is we leave this in the tree. You leave it all year long. Obviously this is a small case, you know, this might be 30 feet up into the tree, right? But you're gonna leave it, and I like to try to do is if there's any limbs on the, you know, on the tree, I like to take it and tie it off when I leave them, because you don't want the wind to take this. And I've had some cases where you go out there, you didn't do anything with your paracord loop, the wind took it and the thing's up, you know, and you can't even get to it. So that could mess you up. So you want to find a way to maybe like fasten it to something down on the bottom. You could even maybe tie a heavy stick to it if you wanted, but just something so that it doesn't end up where you don't want it. When you walk into your spot and you go to hunt it, you're going to take your climbing line, and I just want to show you this. I always wrap my climbing line up like this. I leave my carabiner tied off, and I always have my, you know, my five foot tail end that I use for climbing my Blake's hitch. And what I do is I leave it tied all the time. I wrap it up and I leave it in this condition, and I wrap up my whole rope to store it in my bag. You could, if you wanted, when you walk up to a spot, you could just clip onto it and pull that up and over. I don't like to do it that way personally, because the metal and this bulky piece, if you pull it up into a crotch, it could get stuck and it can sometimes be noisy. So I like to take the other end. If you have a larger limb, it's not an issue. You know, like a big, sometimes you get in these big oaks and you have a really big limb and it's no big deal. You could do it that way. But what I like to do is I like to take the other end of my rope. I'll just tie it on like that, and I'll pull it up and over. And that's it. Your climbing line's in your tree, and you tie your Blake's hitch and do what you've got to do. It's basically that simple. And this tip of using the paracord, the preset paracord loops in the trees, it's really invaluable. It's a great tool if you do a lot of preseason scouting. Scott and I do a lot of actually more postseason scouting, really. When we're shed hunting and that sort of thing, we find locations. We'll mark them on the apps on our phone, the location. Maybe stick a bright eye on your tree. Sometimes blaze a bright eye trail, and we do all that stuff typically in the postseason. I like to get all of our presets actually done before springtime, and this way, you know, all that that legwork's done. There's not as many, you know, there's no ticks in the woods at that time. There's a lot less foliage. Everything looks the same way as it will when you go back to hunt it. And doing this tip of leaving the paracord loops in the tree will save you a lot of time when you go back there to hunt it. So I hope this tip is helpful to you guys. This is, you know, it's a very inexpensive way to save a lot of money on tree steps. I used to use a lot of screw-in tree steps, and I'd spend hundreds of dollars on screw-in tree steps, and I'd have preset locations with tree steps in the locations, climb up and hunt them. And now, using the DRT method, you don't have to do any of that. You save the money. You know, if you're in like a spot where you're on public land and you can't use screw-in steps or anything like that, this is a great way to do it. And DRT or even SRT, it's a great way to climb. You know, we're kind of promoting it more for saddle hunting, but listen, when you're hunting out of tree stands, especially on public land, using DRT method is a great way to go too, because you can put a tree stand up in a tree, not have any steps, leave your stand up in the tree. It makes it, you know, unless somebody comes back with a climbing method, they can't get to your tree stand. And we like to set the stands up and set it up that way so that you know, sometimes, you know, especially on public land, somebody will see that tree stand and like, somebody's hunting here. They can't get up in the tree, and it's another great tool. So use that tip. I'm just looking here, I'm filming this, and a deer just walked through the woods right behind me here. It's kind of funny. Okay guys, have be safe climbing, good luck, and hope this tip is helpful to you.